Hello and welcome to Newsclick. Today we have with us D. Raghunandan, President of the All India People Science Network and a former member of the government's low carbon path to development. Raghu, we recently have this agreement between China and the US, which seems to bypass the climate change larger negotiations. They seem to have each agreed to something which is comfortable to both. China will still expand their per capita emissions to something like 10 tons per head, and the US is proposing to come down to 15 to 16 tons per head by 2030. Do you think this is a bad omen for the climate change negotiations, or do you think it's a part of a larger settlement which is emerging from below, as was the US attempt to steer in Copenhagen?
I think it's a bit of both. In the first place, I think one should say that in the present circumstances, any move forward compared to the quagmire that the negotiations are stuck in, I suppose one should say it's a good thing. The US has increased its emissions commitment from the Waxman-Markey standard of 17% below 2005 to 26 to 28% below 2005, and China has for the first time accepted a peaking year, which, as you will recall, it fought very hard against at Copenhagen and refused to do so. Having said that, it's very clear that the actual commitments, if you look at them quantitatively, are far below what the requirement would be if you're looking at the 2 degrees centigrade goal. The US and China put together today represent more than 40% of current emission flows. And clearly, unless there are very major contributions by these two countries, you're not going to be able to reach the agreement that we want in order to reach the 2 degrees goal. The US, of course, its 26 to 28% really amounts to only 13% if you take 1990 as the baseline year, whereas they have taken 2005 as the baseline year. And this is, of course, shamefully below the 40% reduction by 2020, which IPCC has called for by developed countries, and is also very far below the European Union's commitment of 30% reduction below 1990 levels. So the US is clearly not doing the world any great favor.
So this is an interesting argument which Obama cannot give, that anyway if the shift by fracking to natural gas, wind, which they are also implementing, which is reasonably cheap, the emissions are going to come down.
Quite
so
right.
What he cannot tell the Republicans, I'm actually fooling rest of the world by taking commitments which we are going to do in any case.
In any case. Ironically, the Chinese commitment now of capping their emissions by 2030, while it is in a sense dramatic, it's a new announcement, and the China-US joint announcement seems to have triggered a lot of excitement in the media and in several other countries, saying this is now going to put pressure on others to raise their levels of ambition. Studies within China by climate think tanks, by government agencies, by the Chinese Academy of Social Sciences have earlier predicted that China, on a business as usual trajectory, will peak between 2030 and 2035 anyway. So China is also, in a sense, making a virtue out of necessity, which it is going to. And unfortunately, it's not informed the world what its peak level is going to be at 2030. If they were slowing down their emissions trajectory drastically and would reach a very low level in 2030, that would have been something. They have also not declared whether and if they will start declining, and when they will start declining, and to what level they will decline after 2030. So that's also up in the air at the moment. The other announcement by China, which has attracted a lot of attention, is their announced goal of reaching 30% energy production from non-fossil sources again by 2030. You may remember that China has already on the table an announced policy of reaching 20% non-fossil by 2020. So another 10% in the next 5 years is not such a great achievement. So in a sense, quantitatively, I don't see this announcement as being very significant for the world.
This is the first part of our discussion with D. Raghunandan on climate change and the US and China agreement. We'll come back on this for the next part.